Hey guys, I'm going to be going over my programming background and talk about how I got to where I am today. So it all started around when I was 16 years old, and I don't think I had done too much programming before that. I think I might have tried a little something in like C Sharp or Visual Basic, but nothing serious. And I took my first computer science class. It was an AP computer science class in Java. This was my third year of high school, and the reason for taking this was one, to see if I was interested in doing computer science in college, and two, if I liked it and I did well in it, I'd be able to get some credit for college. So I took this course and I actually did like it, and I liked the professor. It was pretty good when I took it, and it taught me Java pretty well. And at the same time I was doing this, I was actually doing another Java course because I was so interested in Java actually, and programming in general. It actually just caught my interest. So I took this one Udemy course, Java Tutorial for Beginners, and basically took this at the same time. And this took me a year to do both of these. So this is around, I started around September-ish and all the way to May of that year. So then it went into the summer of my junior year, and I actually don't remember what I did during the summer for programming wise. I think I did probably some Java stuff and just kind of maybe a couple little projects. And I remember I eventually get into some Android stuff, but I think that comes a little bit later. But we'll talk about that next. Then after the summer, it was my senior year of high school, so fourth year, and for whatever reason, I kind of didn't really do much Java, at least at the beginning. Instead, what I did was some WordPress. So WordPress is a blogging platform that you can set up websites and stuff. And so my mom had a web design company, and she built WordPress websites. So I helped her build them, and honestly, I had no idea what was really going on. I kind of just did, so you can see this is kind of like the dashboard. I kind of just configured stuff in the dashboard, but honestly, I know way more about what's going on now. Back then, I had no idea what any of the things I was doing, and it was in PHP. I didn't even know what PHP was then, and I didn't know CSS or HTML or pretty much any of that stuff. But I didn't learn any JavaScript or PHP for this, but I did pick up a little bit about HTML and CSS. And around the same time, my mom had a membership to this place called Treehouse. So I don't think I ended up doing any of these till probably around December, January, the spring half of that semester of my senior year. And I took a couple courses here, and the first was an Android course, and I actually really liked that, and it was cool to see something running on my phone. And I think I also took a command line course here where I learned basically the essentials and basics of command line stuff. And I thought that was really cool, and I think I built two apps with this, and it was a stack calculator, which is very similar to the one I did with React Native. I basically just rebuilt it with React Native. So I did it in Android, and I also did it another one called LOL Scout, which is a League of Legends that basically you could track your score, your stats while playing it, and it was fun to make, and it was basically just practicing Android. And I actually pushed those onto the Google Play Store. They're no longer there though, because the League of Legends one got taken down for copywriting, and I just replaced my stack calculator one with the React Native one because I thought that was better. So I also around that time started learning Python. It was the end of my spring semester / starting in the summer that I did some Python, and I used this course called Learn Python the Hard Way. Recently just gotten updated, but this is back when it was not updated, and it taught me Python 2. So I took this, and this taught me the essentials of Python, and I thought it was like pretty decent. So, and this took a good part of my summer before college. And now this was the summer going into college that I started learning Python. And I also knew I was going to have to take a Java class in Python, or not Python, a Java class in college. And so I wanted to start doing some more Java, prepare for that class and also learn some more advanced Java things. And I was thinking I really wanted to be a Java developer at this point for some reason. So I read through some of this book, Head First Java, right before going to college. And then I went to college, and my first semester I took the Java class, and it was super easy because I had pretty much already learned Java twice, right? With the AP class and the beginner Java class, and now this Head First Java. But I did end up, going through this pretty fast and getting into like some servlets and some more advanced features pretty quickly here. And during that semester, I also started to get interested in data analysis. Now, I got this book, but I actually don't think I actually read most of it. I just did like a tiny bit of it. So I pretty much wasted the book. But it's supposed to be good if you want to do Python and data analysis. So I had just learned Python, and then I was learning some pandas and NumPy and IPython and all that good stuff that surrounds data analysis. And the reason why I started to do that is because over winter break, my first year of college, what I did was go work at a quantitative trading company. And so there I used Python and pandas and learned a lot about the stock market. So that was really fun, and I really liked it. And then second semester of college, I took this class where it was kind of like a senior design or senior project type of class, where we were given basically a problem. We had to solve it, right? So this is what I had. I made this project for a company called TextProtects, and what they do is basically data and research about child abuse. So they had a whole ton of data online. The Texas state government keeps about basically records and data. And so what they wanted us to do, and this is what we ended up making. So I have the code on GitHub, and we also hosted it using GitHub Pages. I made this little thingy right here. So the first part of this was scraping stuff using Python. So I learned how to scrape stuff in Python, and then I used what I learned with pandas to basically clean up the data, sort it, get it in an order that I could represent it here using JavaScript. So this is my first time actually learning JavaScript and seeing it. And you can see this is a little bootstrap, and I actually didn't like it at all. I did not like JavaScript. This is vanilla JavaScript. We're using var, and kind of didn't like it at all, especially compared to Python or Java. Didn't like it one bit. But I made this, and I got some experience with it, and also HTML, CSS, and then I got better at doing Python and pandas even more for doing this. And then so that was my spring semester, first year, and then right before the summer, and then starting the summer. So over the summer, I worked at the same place I did over the winter, still doing Python, Panda stuff, and data analysis, learning more about the stock market. So just getting better with that stuff. And then for some reason, I really thought I wanted to do programming competitions. So I actually started reading and taking courses about algorithms. So I took this Coursera course and watched some of the videos on it from algorithms. If you don't know what programming competitions are, it's basically algorithms and data structures where you're given a certain amount of time and you try to solve these problems. So I started just jamming doing these problems and learning these algorithms. So I took this class here, basically just consumed me. I just got super interested in it all of a sudden, and I started doing that. So I did this course, and then I also read this book over here that was recommended just for funsies, and I usually don't like books. And these are great professors right here. I actually watched some of their videos on YouTube too. I learned a lot of data structures here, and this is actually where I got really good base and fundamentals with just seeing code and seeing how fast it would run. And so I did a bunch of problems on a website like this, or HackerRank, tons of other websites where basically there's just coding problems online. And I think this lasted about a month, so maybe around I think I did this in June, so around July I was kind of just burnt out. But and I just was like, I don't. It's not even that fun just coding these. It's not really even coding. It just ended up becoming math. Like I really liked it at first, but then it just ended up being just a ton of math, and I wasn't really interested in it. And it was just like memorizing like once you get to a certain point in basically the programming competitions and these problems, it no longer became just programming and basic data structures. It was just like memorizing obscure things that I would never really have to use, and I didn't really like that. But to do this, I actually learned some C++, and I got really good at just basically the fundamentals of data structures and algorithms. And when I see a piece of code, I know how fast it runs and how I could possibly optimize it to make it run faster. So this was a really good, basically, a little helper for me for future things that I wanted to do. But I definitely was like, gross, I don't want to do programming competitions anymore. And this was actually kind of an interesting summer for me, and that was actually kind of difficult because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was pretty much not interested in too many, like I wanted to do programming stuff over the summer, but I didn't know what to program. And by the way, this was all pretty much after work while doing stuff. At work doing Python and Pandas. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't like web development, right? Because with this thing, I saw JavaScript and I was like, gross, I don't like it at all. And actually during this time I also did a hackathon. So this was still first year. During when I was doing this, I actually did a hackathon and tried React for the first time, and it went horrible. We actually just like stopped using React and switched to Angular because I just could not figure out how to use React. I couldn't even do Hello World at all. It was pretty awful. So I was not interested in web design at all at this point, at least with JavaScript and this stuff. So this is when I started getting into like, what are some of the other things I could do? I didn't like web development. I didn't want to do competitive programming anymore. What was I going to program? I wasn't really interested in doing more Android apps. I started to like it less and wasn't enjoying what it took to make an Android app. And I was just like, this isn't really that fun. And I was considering the other stuff. So machine learning was starting to get hot, and everyone was talking about big data and data science, and I thought that was pretty cool. So let's try that out, right? So I did this, and I took this course, which was very good. Everyone recommends this for starting with machine learning. I did the whole course, and it gave me a basic foundation for machine learning, and I had experience with Python, which is used a lot in machine learning. So I did scikit-learn, started to learn about this, and start practicing using IPython, doing stuff in there. I was already pretty familiar with Pandas, IPython, right, from working with that, and then also what I'd done before. And I started using this and doing Kaggle competitions. If you haven't heard of Kaggle, it's amazing. They have a ton of data. They give you a problem to do, and then you can possibly win stuff. I never did any good in them, and I just kind of like played around with it and did like the Titanic beginning tutorial and stuff like that. Or I basically just got a taste of data science and what it was like. But this is kind of where I learned I wasn't really that interested in data science and basically machine learning and doing pandas and all that stuff. Like, I like it, but it felt like a lot less programming, and that's the part I didn't like. It felt like it was getting to the point where I was just kind of like cleaning data, and it kind of got monotonous, and I wasn't really enjoying it as much as I really liked building things. And I wish I could just go back to just coding and building things rather than just like sifting through data, basically. So I kind of got old of doing data science and didn't want to do it anymore, so I kind of stopped doing that. This is still over the summer. And so I gave web development another try, but in a different type, right? I started trying, I liked Python. So I tried Django, because I heard you could build websites with this, but it was different, right? Because this is more back-end stuff. I had no idea what I was doing, though. I would go through the Django tutorials, and I went through like the basic one, but I just did not know what was going on. Like, I could get it to work, but nothing was, clicking at all. And this is just a reoccurring theme with this stuff. So this didn't make a sense at all, but I did it for a while. I'd say this is kind of end of July, August of the summer where I started doing this. And for some reason I got interested in functional programming too. So I kind of laid off Django for a little bit and started learning Haskell, which I really liked. But then I was like, I don't even know what I'm gonna do with this. After I learned it, I was like, let's do a different functional programming language that I can do stuff with. So I learned Elixir. And then I wanted to do, I was interested in doing stuff, building the backends. So at least trying it out and seeing if I'd like it more. Because I didn't really understand what was going on with Django. Even though Django is really good and good beginner stuff, I was starting to kind of get it, but at the same time it wasn't making sense. And so then I started doing, I tried with Elixir and I did Phoenix. So this is basically the Django for Elixir. This is a web framework, and I think I did a few things out of the book. I built a couple websites with this same thing as Django though. Didn't really know what was going on, but I was starting to get more, it was starting to make a little bit more sense, but still making no sense, pretty much whatever. And so that was pretty much the end of the summer. I did those things, and then I pretty much still didn't know what I was going to do because I didn't really like data science that much. I wasn't liking web development, wasn't really going anywhere, and the backends wasn't making sense to me. While I could build this stuff, I was pretty confused. And so I didn't know what to do. So my sophomore year, so this is my second year of college, and I just started spamming hackathons. I just didn't know what I was to code at this time, didn't know what to do. So I just started doing hackathons. If you don't know what a hackathon is, it's a thing they do for college students, and I think they're starting to do it also for high school and then also for people that are just software professionals now. And you're given 24 hours or 36 hours to code something. Usually they'll give you a problem statement or something that, hey, I want you to build this with this API or this framework or this library, and we'll give a prize to the best person, the best project. So I just did a ton of those. I think I did maybe 8 of them over my sophomore year, where I was just all right, let's just figure out what to do. I don't really know what's going on. I don't really know what I want to code, so let's just go to these, see what happens. So eventually one of these hackathons, I did a project with some friends, and they used React and Feathers.js. So they used those two, and I actually didn't know I couldn't use React. I didn't know how to use it. And I didn't know what Feathers.js was, so the part of the project I did was Python, and we actually did well. I did grabbing the data. I think I made for this particular hackathon, it was we went for the JP Morgan prize, and the JP Morgan prize, they set up basically a little stock market, and so the team that made the most money on this virtual stock market. So I made a little Python bot that would do automatic trading, right? And then my other team members, what they did was they ended up making a little dashboard where you could actually trade. So they made a trading dashboard, which was pretty cool. But that was my first, so that's how you do React. Because I could see kind of how they did that. And I'd never heard of Feathers either. So that's where I kind of heard about them and saw, hey, these are things and they kind of look interesting. Let's check it out. So I think also around this point I joined a club where I was starting to do some programming, and this programming club, same people I did the hackathon with, so they were using React and Feathers. So I basically needed to learn React for that, and Feathers.js, so I could help them and be a part of the club. And so I started to learn React, and so the course I took for React was by Wes Boss, and it was a beginner React course. It wasn't this one because I don't remember making this. I made something else. I think it was a little Instagram type of clone that we made. So it looks like it's a little updated, but I took this course and learned React. Now, my knowledge of React was so confused. I was so confused about it, like, but I could get stuff to work. And that was that's kind of a theme, right? I could get stuff to work with Django and Elixir and now React, but I didn't quite understand how it was working. But I could figure out how to get it to work. And then I also learned Feathers, just going through the Feathers documentation and the getting started. And same thing, I was getting it to work. And Feathers, it started to make slightly more sense what was going on with Feathers, because I knew Feathers and Django and Elixir were all trying to do the same thing, or not Elixir, but Phoenix were trying to do the same thing, but they all did it in different ways. So I started to kind of get how they were all trying to do the same thing, and like it was slowly but surely starting to make slightly more sense. Still wasn't completely like, yes, I got this with Feathers, but I started to learn that, and that was good. And this is around the time where I started this project called Menu Monkey, and I made a YouTube video about how to set this up. And so I started learning React around, I looked at the last commit I made for this. It was around November 11th, 2016. So this is my, second year of college, first semester, and the end of my first semester, right, November. So right around this time, I started learning React and Feathers, probably a couple weeks, no more than a month for sure. Because as soon as I started learning it, I wanted to build a project with it and try to get it to work. So that's that. And I did that for a little bit, where I just kind of was learning React and Feathers, getting better at it. And then spring semester and around May-ish, so just kept programming, doing those things, and programming with Feathers and React. And around May-ish, I started a project. And two, I started making YouTube videos way more than before. And I also started this project, and which I'm actually still working on right now. And with that, and this was quite an interesting how that evolved. But with that project, I just learned Feathers, JS, and React, right? So my natural inclination was, all right, let's start out the project using Feathers and React, right? And this was a project I had planned on actually bringing, everyone publish this to the world and let everyone use. And this was going to be like a product I was going to make. So I started that last May, and I'm still working on it today. And so I started it with using that, and I slowly realized this was not really gonna work. Like, I just kept running into problems with it. So then I came back to actually Django, and I ended up rewriting the whole thing. Like, I got a substantial part of it done, and I ended up rewriting this in Django. So I was still using React front end, but I got ditched Feathers and I used Django for the back end. And I think the biggest thing that I was having trouble with Feathers was authentication, and I wanted to do JWT tokens for some reason. So that was giving me trouble. So I switched over to Django, and this is where I was like, coming back to Django, things made a lot more sense my second time coming back to it, and I was liking it a lot more. But around this time, I had also was introduced to GraphQL, and I really liked it. But for whatever reason, I didn't choose to use it in that project and use it with, that project for whatever reason. Like, I don't know why I didn't, but I just went with Django. And then I went from there. And then all of a sudden, I was like, man, why am I not using GraphQL? Like, I just asked myself that, and I was like, well, there's no really good reason. Let's start using GraphQL. So I rewrote the project for a third time. Now, for those of you that are familiar with GraphQL, the JavaScript GraphQL libraries are a lot more developed than the Python ones. So I dropped using Django and went back to JavaScript, and I started learning how the heck do I set up a Node server or a JavaScript server with GraphQL, right? Because I had no idea. I'd never used really Express before. So I set up Express, learned how to use it with GraphQL. This is all, starting over the summer, last summer, and all at the time where I was working at Bank of America. So I did this just like after work, and at Bank of America, I did machine learning, and I did it with, what did we use? We used the Stanford NLP library. So we were working on basically a little Siri for Bank of America. That's the team I worked on, and so I was doing machine learning and NLP stuff with that. And so while that was happening, I was also doing this GraphQL stuff, and I was also making YouTube videos. And that's when things just started to really click. Like, I think in the last summer and then the last semester, so roughly 6 months-ish, 8 months, things just really started to click. And I think I've just doubled in my programming skill, because things finally, so I was always able to get it to work, right? But things were starting to like, oh, that's why that's a thing, and that's how that works. Like, things were starting to click. Pretty much, so this is my third year of programming, around that time-ish, 3.5. That's when stuff started to finally click, at least with web development and getting React and stuff to work. And then I've just been doing that ever since, right? So that was the last summer, and then last semester, fall, just kept doing React, kept doing GraphQL and Express, and I'm liking my project's going well, and those technologies are working really well for it. And I actually did just recently rewrite it, but that's because I made some changes on how I wanted to do things. Basically, my code is getting a lot better. I'm enjoying the direction it's going, and I'm enjoying React much, 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 much better than vanilla JavaScript. And I never thought I would do web development, but I'm starting to really like web development, full stack web development. I enjoy doing React, and I'm enjoying doing the back-end stuff with GraphQL and Express. And also I was starting to enjoy it with Django, and I did like it with Phoenix too. I liked those things a lot better. I just didn't understand it back then. But now that I'm starting to understand it, it's making more sense. I'm really liking it, and I could see I like it way better than the other stuff. Now, I still do some data science stuff now and then, and I'm actually thinking about, it'd be kind of cool to start doing some videos about that, because, well, I've done it for so long, and I just haven't done much videos on it, and it's just because I've been so focused on GraphQL and web development lately. But I definitely want to do like maybe some Kaggle competitions and stuff, because they still are pretty fun to do once in a while. So maybe some of that content will be coming soon, with Scikit-learn and some Python and that sort of thing could be coming soon. But yeah, so that's how I got started with programming and my adventure so far, how I got here currently, and that's how I kind of stumbled upon and got good at GraphQL, Express, and React, which is my current stack, and I guess also PostgreSQL I'm using, and Django. And Django helped, teach me how that stuff worked too, because Django, I kind of got started used to like what databases are and what the models are, because you start building those out with those things, and Feathers.js 2 helped with that. But yeah, okay, so this was a longer video than I thought it was going to be, but I guess I have, and this is just a short overview, right? I didn't go too in depth into anything, but yeah, that's how I am. That's how I currently got to where I am today. Thank you guys for watching. Feel free to ask questions about any of it, and I'll see you guys later.